Margaret, can I sneak it to your office and grab a pen? Yes, of course. Thank you.
Okay, you're good to go. Okay, we'll give it another minute or two for, I think we're expecting all 5 members here today. Yeah, Brianna online and the phone, and we're just missing Brian. Give it like 1 more minute and stuff.
What I hear is that the APL,
Yeah, there's filtered, unfiltered, either one you can use.
and is there a?
There's no
No password.
password. So I can see if there was something going on the phone.
Okay, we'll dive in.
Okay.
So, welcome everybody. It's welcome to the April 29th special meeting of GBOS, covering various topics. Girdwood Supervisors committees and subcommittees are probably subject to the Alaska Open Meetings Act, as found in Alaska Statute 44.62.310 and Anchorage Municipal Code 1.25 public meetings. Girdwood Board of Supervisors operates under the Girdwood Public Meeting Standards of Conduct. I will call the meeting to order at 2:33 p.m. My name is Mike Edgington, co-chair. I'll read the landing law this time. Girdwood Board of Supervisors acknowledges the indigenous people of Alaska, whose land we reside on. The community of Girdwood, situated in areas known to be a Dena'ina and Alutiiq homeland, respect the people who were stewards of this land for generations. We commit to the continued stewardship of this land and are grateful to be part of a wider community that seeks to maintain a sustainable use of Girdwood Valley for present and future peoples. I'll start to do roll call, please.
Yes. Sorry, I was trying to figure out what was going on there. Brianna Sullivan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ellie Okonek,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard,
Present.
and Brian Burnett. Mike Edgington.
Present. Okay, couple of announcements. Public is encouraged to ask questions, provide comment. Please raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged. To help discussion stay productive, please direct your comments to the board rather than other members of the public. Keep your comments focused on the business under discussion and be respectful of everyone's opinions. We'll start with agenda approval. A motion to approve the agenda.
To approve. I'll
Thank
second.
you. Thank you. Moved by Brianna, seconded by Jennifer. Any discussion? I'll look for unanimous consent. Any disagreements? No. Okay. The agenda is approved. So the first item we have is the MOA conflict of interest disclosure and how we deal with the appeal to the chair's decision. Brianna, would you like to briefly describe the events of last Monday, or would you like me to do that just to provide a context?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. I'll try to recap. I know all of us that are present today were at the meeting, but we were in the middle of or starting an item, and we had a member have a disclosure, and I was chairing the meeting. And after the series of questions on our quick sheet, I made a ruling, and it's open to the body after that, and my ruling was appealed. That's what it's called when we look back at this. And then we had a vote on the appeal, and we did not have a majority either way. We had a tie. And then we went with the sustaining of the chair as that interpretation. And then we had a recess, and then after our recess, another member pointed to code saying that it was in conflict with how we managed the previous item through Robert's rules. And it was a really good parliamentary point. So we decided it'd be better to have an expert in parliamentary help us interpret that. So I think that's where we are today. And I know Jamie Hines sent some emails that were really helpful. And then we were recommended Paul, forgive me, I don't remember his last name, to come today to also discuss maybe recapping that or just the ethics issue? So anyone or fill in my blanks, please, if I missed something, but thank you.
Thank you. I think there were also some other subsequent questions which were raised about what requires disclosure, what the criteria are for deciding whether it's a significant disclosure, etc. Some of this is material that would typically be covered under training for ethics and well, basic for ethics code training and OMA training. And I know previously I think the last time we did it was about 2 years ago. So I think it might make sense for us to schedule some ethics training again, because we've had some turnover in membership. Maybe that's the appropriate time to cover some of the more detailed procedures, or some of the more detailed questions, or maybe today. I think at the minimum, I'd like to hand it over to Jamie to just answer the initial parliamentary question about how to deal with an appeal. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Sorry,
Please do.
thank you so much. I was going to say,
Thank
that in
you very
addition-
much, Jamie, for being here.
Just before we go, Kelly wanted to say something.
yeah, I just feel like what the last meeting showed was just a lack of understanding of the code and of the process. So yes, I think we need to deal with the specific issue. And yes, maybe there needs to be training, but there's nothing like just actually working real world examples to talk through the actual lived example of how to apply the code. And so I would invite us to actually use this as a training and, choose other examples as well that we know of to like work through them to kind of build a working knowledge and working understanding of how we should be doing this. Because I think that the meeting showed that we really don't know how to as a board.
Thank you. I will respectfully disagree that characterization. I think the meeting showed we did know how to deal with it, the board. I think the meeting showed there is a potential ambiguity when it comes to how the appeal process works, which is not described in detail in code. And I think there are a couple of ways one could see it going, which is why we've asked Jamie to join us now. Jamie, I think you have the background for this, but if you have any questions, we're happy to answer it.
Sure. So I understand that there was a disclosure made and the chair made a ruling under the disclosure, and then there was an appeal. And so in Robert's rules, which Title IV incorporates Robert's rules for boards and commissions, an appeal is an appeal from the decision of the chair is taken so that the affirmative will be in favor of sustaining the chair's decision. So the question in front of the body should not be in favor of the appeal. Robert's rules talks about all of motions being made in the positive. And so the question that the chair states when a motion to appeal from the decision of the chair is made and seconded, the question that the chair restates is, shall the decision of the chair stand as the judgment of the body? Or they could also say, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? A yes vote means that they agree with the decision of the chair and sustain the decision. And a no vote means that the body disagrees with the decision of the chair and the chair's decision is overturned. And so a majority vote in the negative is required to overrule the decision of the chair, according to both Robert's rules and the way that the code is written, that a majority is required to overrule the chair. So a tie motion sustains the decision of the chair.
Question though, in this case,
Can you just wait?
there were 4 members.
Kelly, could you just wait until, I'm not sure if Jamie finished, if you could just wait to be recognized. Did you finish? Sorry, Jamie, did you finish your point?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked up in Robert's rules. I've looked it up in 2 quick guides as well, and they all agree.
Thank you. Sorry, Kelly.
Oh, just one of the questions that came up with the meeting is in the vote to sustain the decision of the chair, does the chair vote? So the chair, there were 4 people, independent of the potential conflicted person. And so do the 3 people vote to then say, do they support the position of the chair, or do all 4 vote, where the chair obviously votes for themselves? Like, how does that was one of the primary points of lack of understanding demonstrated in the meeting.
I think that the person making the disclosure does not vote, but I think the chair does vote.
So then if there's 4 people, including the chair, voting, then there would be a tie because the chair would vote for themselves. One person voted to uphold the chair and 2 people voted to counteract the chair. So then that question became, what's majority? And my understanding, based on my interpretation of code and then doing my own research, is that there has to be that tie would not carry the vote of the chair. But that was the central issue, is what happens in that tie.
In that tie,
If one person votes to uphold the decision of the chair and 2 people vote to override the decision of the chair, what is the outcome?
in a tie, the decision of the chair is sustained. There, you did not have a majority overriding the rule of the chair, so the decision of the chair is sustained.
Thank you. Are there any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay,
I would just go back
Go
to
ahead,
say
Jamie.
that the reason that the chair votes is because you guys have a duty to vote.
Thank you. So this is actually I think this is the process we followed, with one exception. There's one more question I have for you, Jamie, as well.
Sorry, I did have a question too.
Yeah, sorry, can I?
Go,
You want to go
you
first?
go.
No, you-
No, no, you go
okay.
ahead, you go ahead.
I think the other thing we weren't clear about when we look back on it was code says there can be an appeal. It wasn't clear to us at the time whether that appeal needed a second, and I don't believe we asked for a second. I think subsequently, it looks like there was a second required. Is that your interpretation, Jamie?
Yeah, all my books say that a motion to appeal the decision of the chair needs to be seconded.
Thank you. Right, I think that's the questions I know I had. What does a tie, how can the appeal occur? Oh, sorry, there's one other small nuance. So the appeal can be any member, the appeal can be basically initiated by any member of the board except for the person with the disclosure. And the second can be any member of the board except for the person with the disclosure. I believe that's correct.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Thank you. And then a tie does not override the ruling of the chair. So in the end, that's the procedure we did end up following. You had a question?
Yes.
Jennifer, please go ahead.
I am going to have to question you a little bit on this business about the chair voting, because I looked that up at the time. I'm looking it up again now, and I'm finding the exact opposite online. And so maybe online is wrong, but it is saying specifically that the chair does not participate in the vote on the motion to uphold their decision unless it's a tie vote, and they are required to cast with divided sign.
So our code overrules the Robert's rules, and our code indicates that you guys have a duty to vote. So in wherever you found it online, it may be that the chair only votes in cases of ties in other different bodies, but in our code, everybody is required to vote. Unless they have a disclosure and are excused from voting.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Please, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm still reading an interpretation of AMC 1.15060 Echo 2 Delta, which says if the presiding officer exercises parliamentary authority by making an initial ruling on a disclosure of a private interest, the decision of the presiding officer may be appealed to the body for a majority vote. This clearly states that a determination by the body must be made by a majority vote, and the person disclosing the conflict may not vote. In a tie vote means no majority was reached. And under Robert's Rules of Order, which governs in the absence of specific language, a motion fails unless it receives a majority of the votes cast. A tie vote does not carry the motion. So if the motion is to find that the interest is substantial and thus disqualifying, and the vote is 2-2 with the conflicted person abstaining, the motion fails, and therefore the board has not found a substantial conflict. What
The
would you say to
question
that
before
interpretation?
the question before the body is, shall the decision of the chair stand as the judgment of the body? That is the question before the body.
Kelly, can you just say where you're reading that from? You said it's an interpretation of an opinion.
It's an interpretation of code.
Okay, where does that come from?
A legal friend.
Oh, okay, so it's not public.
No.
Thank you. Right.
So then, with regard to the actual determination by the chair, so I'll just name, like, you know, I'm the person who has a potential conflict of interest at the airport. Is there well, so the question is the interest financial? And is it substantial, which is to say, is it materially affected by the outcome of this decision? And I don't think there's clarity about determining when an interest is financial. So, for example, my financial interest is that I'm a leaseholder. Similarly, like I have a financial interest with Wells Fargo because I have a mortgage. It's an established long-term contract, which has no bearing on anything that happens at the airport. So I have a financial relationship, but I don't have a financial interest in the outcome of this. And so that leaves a gray question of, is the interest financial or personal? What constitutes an actual financial interest? Because that was really brave for me as well.
And
I'm
we're
going to
definitely,
pitch to Paul on that.
yeah, so we're definitely in the area of the training topic, which I think is,
But I think
Given
it's
time-
extremely relevant.
given timing, it's fair to answer that question now. So again, I'll pass it to Paul. Did you follow the question, Paul?
I did, yeah. Thanks for allowing me to appear and participate. My name, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Paul Irvesty, and I'm the legal advisor for the Board of Ethics. So just, I'll say kind of a caveat for a lot of these questions. So I'm not a parliamentary expert, and I certainly defer to the municipal clerk on any matters that have been mentioned earlier. And I'm not here to really answer that. And then I think as far as like whether a financial interest is substantial or inconsequential, the only thing that I'll say is that the code specifically puts that question to the body, that in an elected, in a representative society where we have, people that are representing the community, that is your determination to decide whether something is substantial or inconsequential or minor. So the exact criteria that you use to analyze that and answer that question, I think, is sometimes kind of difficult to pinpoint, because that is you are the ones that are entrusted in making that decision. And with that said, I mean, I am happy to give further ethics training. I think that would be a great idea, and I do that periodically with other boards. It has been a couple of years, like the chair mentioned, since we've done any training with Girdwood Board of Supervisors. But that kind of the training that we do goes into the duty, there's two duties that the board members have. So it's participation and disclosure. And participation, you can't participate in a official action when you have a minor or inconsequential private interest or financial interest, but the disclosure requirement is broader, and that deals with potential conflicts of interest. So we just kind of go over that in the training, but unfortunately, I think that's probably all the specific answer that I'd be comfortable giving. Like I said, I don't feel necessarily comfortable in giving some sort of like expert opinion on whether something is substantial or not, because I think that's your decision.
To clarify on that, I think an interest can be private or financial, or both. So it could be a substantial private interest as well as so even if it doesn't meet the requirements for a substantial financial interest, it can still be a substantial private interest. I believe that's the way at least I've understood previous training. Jamie.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to use this specific example that Christopher Constant uses all the time. it was a couple of assemblies ago, there was a member whose parents owned a liquor establishment, and they were voting on, I think, a conditional protest on the liquor license. So does this assembly member have a personal interest in their parents' liquor license continuing? And the assembly said, no, they didn't. And they made him vote on it. And he was very uncomfortable. So yes, that is, personal interest does come in as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
So can I ask just a clarifying question, circling back a little bit? Jamie, I think I heard you say, I tried to write it down verbatim, that the question that would be decided in the case of a challenge is, shall the decision of the chair stand as the decision of the body? So that's what needs a majority vote for a yes, right? So shall the decision of the chair stand as the decision of the body? In order for that to be a yes, you need a majority vote.
The question is, shall the decision of the chair stand as the judgment of the body?
Okay. Right.
And so
Okay.
a majority vote in the negative is required to overrule the decision.
So basically, 3 of the 4 voting members everybody has to override the chair. And if anybody agrees with the chair, then the chair's decision stands.
On a small board of 5, that is my understanding, yes.
Okay. So a couple of things that come out of this, I think. One is, we agreed as a body we should definitely try and schedule ethics and OA training for some point in the future. I say here or no. Actually, I think there's some. Sorry, on that point, I believe there's some. Is there training at the Rules Committee or something similar later this week, Paul, that you're doing?
Yes, so there's some training on Friday for the assembly that I'll be doing. I think I can't remember exactly. I think it starts at 1, but
So
it
that
will be the exact.
That will be recorded.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that could be an option.
Yeah, so we should distribute that around. I think that'll be a good reminder. And then I think it still makes sense to schedule something where we can ask more detailed questions, go through perhaps some examples. I think that would be excellent. So that's the future training. Is there anything more to discuss on the matter that's in front of us now? I think my conclusion is I don't think we were asked for a second. We should have asked for a second on the appeal. I think that was a mistake. Apart from that, I think the process we followed was the process which would have been recommended by our parliamentarian. Any further questions or comments or anything on this topic? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Please go ahead.
To clarify, it's my understanding that this is a discussion that should happen at every time or a disclosure that should be made at every time that this topic comes up, though.
Well, actually, that's a very good question. The process we have followed in the past is if the same topic comes up, the same item comes up multiple times, we defer back to previous decision of the body.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a different matter, so for example, if there was a different matter to do with the airport, but a different topic, requiring gates to be put in somewhere or something like this, then even though perhaps the nature of the potential conflict is similar, the topic is different, so we would go through the process again.
So as we're rolling through this agenda.
Right. Yeah. So yes, so that's a good point. So, okay. I should ask our parliamentarian again, if the same topic comes up multiple times with effectively the same interest in the same matter in front of us, is it a reasonable thing to just go back to the previous decision rather than go through the full disclosure and adjudication process? Question for Jamie.
Yeah, I think so. you know, if it's like just on an agenda, it would come, if it was postponed to a future date, it's the same topic, the same matter as before the body, and it's just postponed to a future date where it would typically come back as like unfinished business, yes, that person would still be excused.
Thank you. We're sometimes not quite that formal and organized when we come to unfinished business. Please, go ahead.
I would like to ask in this case that we do take another look at it. I was a little surprised by my co-supervisor's answers, and definitely surprised later when we talked about it at some of the other things. So I just want to state, I'd like to see this. I understand in principle that we let what stand, but in this case, I think that there was missing information that didn't come out and that I didn't understand until I talked to the supervisor separately. And so I'm hoping that we give that a chance to come out, because I would like to know that we're all new at this and we're all learning along the way. So I think it was certainly our first time through that as a board with this current selection and for this individual. So anyway, I would like us to revisit it first. What I view as some of the missing relevant facts to come out.
Okay. I don't think there's anything that prohibits us from doing that if the board wants to. Definitely if there's more information available. Okay, Kelly, you had a comment and then. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe this needs to come up with the training, but I really struggle with the interpretation of Robert's rules in the code, because what it's saying is that if anyone can be removed by default unless every single other person votes to override the chair, then that grants the chair unilateral ability to silence people. And that seems like excessive power. So I guess where in code does it say that something in Anchorage overrides normal Robert's rules? Because I need to go research this and make sure I understand it, because what you're saying just isn't adding up for my brain and any other research that I've done.
It's my understanding that it's stated in Robert's rules itself that the body's own bylaws supersede Robert's rules. In the rules, the state law, municipal code, the body's bylaws, and then Robert's rules is at the bottom of the list. So everything will supersede Robert's rules.
And where in the body's bylaws does it say that this particular overrule is relevant?
Well, I think it says, so you're asking where does it say in the code that you have a duty to vote?
No, because under Robert's rules, when a decision of the chair is appealed, the question is, shall the decision of the chair be sustained? It requires a majority in the affirmative to uphold the chair's ruling. A tie vote fails to sustain the chair's ruling. Therefore, in a 2-2 vote, the chair's decision is overturned. That's the interpretation of Robert's rules. And so we're saying something that's completely counter to Robert's rules here. And so I just want to understand what you're referring to that would supersede the application of Robert's rules in this determination or any decision by the chair.
So it's AMC 115-060E2D. It says the presiding officer exercises a parliamentary authority to make a ruling on a disclosure. And then the decision of the presiding officer may be appealed to the body for a majority vote. So in order to overrule the body, or in order to overrule the chair, you need a majority to vote no.
No, but you said the question is, we need to pull it up because we need to read it. It says, should the question of the chair be sustained? And there must be a majority to determine yes. And if there's no majority, then the answer is no.
So again, the question is backwards from the way the code reads. So the question is.
We're pulling up the code real quick. So we need to be able to see it when I can't think independently of.
Sorry.
Trying to find it. In 115 section,
Yeah, I think that's, you're in the charter, I think.
oh,
Further down,
sorry, I'm way up here.
further down.
Down,
Yep, that's it.
okay.
When she said 030,
060, 060 E2D.
D, if there's any.
The decision of the presiding officer may be appealed to the body for a majority vote. But it doesn't specify there.
And in the appeal for the decision of the body, the question is, shall the decision of the chair stand as the judgment of the body?
And where are you finding that in code?
It's in Robert's rules.
I think I'm going to intervene briefly here. I think we're at the point now where we've sought the expertise and opinion and help from the parliamentarian, the municipal clerk. We've received that. We've received an answer to that question. I can see where you're going, Kelly. I was trying to parse this out myself, and I came, to a similar kind of, what exactly does this mean? And then when I referred to both things, I understand, and I understand what Jamie's position. I agree with that. But I think we're at the point now we're in such detail. We're not going to resolve this here. If there is a one thing we can do, or as an individual you can do, is basically make I think that actually would this fall? This is a question for Paul. Would this fall under an advisory opinion to clarify the full process here? Or would this, I think we have got clarity, but there's clearly a question here and one of our members isn't satisfied with the answer. So is this something that could be an advisory opinion, or does this fall outside? Is this more sort of process and falls within the clerk's remit? Question for Paul.
I don't think it would be a subject for an advisory opinion from the Board of Ethics, because they only are familiar with the ethics code. They can't give an advisory opinion on how Robert's rules should apply. Got
it. Thank you. So, I mean, in practice, we've got to the point we've sought out the leading expert in the municipality, who's Jamie. We've got the opinion from Jamie, her interpretation and justification for that. I think we're kind of at the end of this discussion, unless anybody else wants to add anything more. Margaret.
I have a follow-up question, which has to do with the participation by a member in the discussion, then about a topic that they may be recused from. May that person participate in the discussion, but not the vote, or do they not participate in any of it?
My understanding of code is that the person does not participate in the discussion as a member of the board. We do have this occasional weird situation where, for example, if I had a planning application, then I would obviously recuse myself from the board, but I may still, if the actual issue is directly related to, my direct interest, then potentially if I can't find somebody else to represent my interest at the same level, then I think you can participate at that level, but you're clearly not a member of the board when you're doing that. I think that is a weird edge case.
Right, and I bring this up because I found that Kelly had great insight.
Yes.
And awareness of things airport related that were enlightening.
And that's a problem, I think, with small communities, that we're often in a position where you have both a conflict and a conflict at some level, and also a lot of involvement in the process. And that's why typically in the past, we very frequently have people who would declare an interest, and then the decision is that that interest is not substantive enough to recuse them from the vote and to recuse them from participation. But it does say that the role of the person giving the disclosure is basically to answer the questions and not to be involved in broader discussion or the vote itself, which includes, you know, the appeal process, etc. But I think that is sometimes we occasionally have a problem with when somebody may be conflicted enough to not take part in the vote, but may still have an interest as a member of the public. Jamie, go ahead.
I would just say that at the assembly level, the member who has been disqualified from voting, they leave the room.
So
they're not, you know, like when Meg has had conflicts related to housing and homelessness, and she declared a conflict and she was ruled to have had a conflict, she left the room. So she was not there as a subject matter expert.
Yeah. If it was something, we're going to hypothetical again. If it was a topic where, for example, let's say Meg, if Meg owned a particular bar and there was a liquor license coming up in front of her, would she be required to have somebody else represent her interests? Or would she be able to represent her own interests, not as a member of the board?
Well, and this goes back to my time in Haynes, but we had a planning and zoning commissioner apply for a conditional use permit. And so he recused himself from being a planning and zoning commission member, and he did move to the audience and stood for questions from the members on the topic of the conditional use permit. So I think that in that situation, the person probably has a standing to stay in the room and answer the questions as the applicant, which was sort of the explanation that you were using a little bit ago. So I think that, yes, that is a right. But I just wanted to share that from Meg's perspective with the homelessness stuff, when she was recused from participating, she left the room.
I understand. I mean, obviously, in that case, the organization itself has other staff members who can represent the organization's position, etc. So it's not quite the same.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So, and I think this is very similar to what we did when it came to issues around the Girdwood Comprehensive Plan that Imagine Girdwood put forward. I was recused from any decisions by the body, but I was then a member of the audience answering questions. Okay. Any other nuances? We will do training. We will send around a link to the recording of the training Paul is going to give on Friday to give everyone an opportunity for some weekend listening. Any other topics any other questions from the board on this topic?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank Paul and Jamie for being here this afternoon and taking time out of your day to help us through this questioning. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Also, I'm first of all sorry if I missed the first few minutes of this program here, and I don't know if I missed it or not. But, I'm certainly, as you said, looking forward to further training on this. I'm really concerned about the low bar that we have for exclusion, given the small field size that we have. And I think that one of the reasons that we all sit on this board to speak for our community is so that we can speak on all topics. And we are all, whether it's something with the airport or an issue that comes up on Timberline or Alaska Highway or something that happens involving, let's say, the Merc. There's got to be a little bit of give and take, given that we have only 5 on the board to speak, whereas, the assembly, if somebody recuses himself, there's 10 other people to have the conversation with. And we're going to end up limiting voices within our community if we continue with such a low bar for exclusion.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can address that part of it. Typically, I would say we don't have a low bar for exclusion. We've generally had a very high bar. We have a low bar for disclosure, because I know we got dinged in the past for just being donating to Nordic Ski Club was considered enough of an engagement, a potential conflict to disclose. And generally what we've found is that not disclosing can create problems. It can go to the Board of Ethics, etc. Disclosing and then making a decision, that decision is effectively protected. So I think we have generally used a relatively high bar, because I think especially in issues where it's a matter, there used to be a question which explicitly said, is this a potential conflict that applies to a very small group of people or to many people? And if it's the Merck or using other facilities in town or Four Valleys or things like that, it's something that's so widespread. I would have argued that Nordic Ski Club is as well, but it's something which is so widespread in the community. It's not it doesn't, just by that very fact, it can't raise to a significant conflict. So I don't think it's fair to say that we have a low bar. I think we've generally used a very high bar. This particular case, I think there's an argument. I said at the time I thought it was very close, but I was using the analogy of if you're in front of us. I was renting a house here. I was renting my accommodation, and there was a matter involving my landlord. I'm not sure that I could actually put the interest of the community above my personal interest and risk of not having my lease extended. Now, I don't think that's a perfect analogy, but in that case, I think it clearly is above the bar. I think this case was close, but that's not really our primary topic. I think that's it.
I think someone had a question.
Yes, sir. Did you have a question?
Well, I think it is actually the primary topic, because I think we're now at agenda item 2.
We're still on agenda item 1.
Oh, we're still on agenda.
If there's anything else, I think I wanted to speak to this. Not if anyone else.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Actually, just quick parliamentary question or a procedure question with the chair. I wanted to build on what Brian was saying, but I don't know if it's more appropriate under item 1 or item 2.
Probably on item 1 if it's about general process.
Well, it's okay. It's particularly in that case. I want to echo that. I think we held a really low bar on this. If I'm viewing this correctly, that like almost nobody could have hopped over, and sorry, that it would have been tough for anyone to come under. Let me do it that way. I think we're confusing informed and conflicted, and also. I think it was really problematic to have that analogy about landlord and tenant, because that's a very personal relationship, and the relationship being disclosed was one with an institution. And so I thought it would have been more analogous to talk about the relationship I have with my mortgage lender, or what, not even that maybe, because the other aspect of this is that the overall amount of money is less than what's involved in property taxes. And so I'm not sure that came out in the discussion either. And I understand we can't be held responsible for what we don't know, but we can be held responsible for erroneous and misleading analogies. And that analogy was not good. That's between two individuals. And so I think that's clear. But particularly a 50-year lease with an organization, I mean, what are we thinking? The DOT somehow going to find out what a supervisor and the GBOS has said? I think that's really overestimating our clout with DOT. I don't think they can. I mean, we have enough trouble when we type it out and put it on letterhead getting them to listen to us. But what a supervisor says in the course of a meeting, or how they vote on something on a 50-year lease. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I won't speak to your lifespan, but my lifespan is probably not going to extend to that. So, yeah, I figured.
Now we're going to substance clear. This was about item 2.
Okay, well,
if it's not, I don't think that was a general principle thing. This was about I really want to move on to item 2. So
okay.
If there's anything more anyone wants to say, I just want to give board members an opportunity, and then we'll go to that. Nothing else from board members?
Am I allowed to comment? Make a comment?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Encourage it.
So to me, I feel like we keep on getting away. Girdwood Board of Supervisors is an advisory council. And it seems unfair to me as a citizen when I hear when we're down to 4 people and the person who appeals the decision, right, for the person to vote. So that leaves 3.
Then that actual majority vote there did not carry is what happened. And because the person who appealed got to vote, that's unfair. That's how I view that and when it's coming down to ethics. The person who appealed should not be able to vote. And on top of that, I second what Brian said, and I second what Jennifer said. We have an extremely low bar. And the problem is what I have with this is that the majority vote did not carry in Monday's meeting. Ultimately, that's how the public sees this. And it's scary because a lot of us feel that that is actually what's happening within this board.
Again, there were 4 people who voted on the appeal. It's clear in code. What we did is follow the ethics code. If there's
That's not
it doesn't
clear,
mean the
Mike.
ethics code is perfect.
That's not clear at all. In fact, I believe that's a misinterpretation of the regulation.
Well, thank you for your comment.
Yeah, thank you for yours.
What we can do is appeal to the expertise we have within the municipality, and we have done that. And the process we followed is the process we're supposed to follow. So, again, we can disagree with the ethics code, but that's basically the level at which we have to approach this. We followed the ethics code. I don't think there's anything more on topic 1. I'd like to thank you very much, Jamie, for your help on this. And I know there's been lots of to and fro emails as well. So thank you for your for clarifying this. I did not fully understand it at the beginning. Thank you for helping. Thank you very much, Paul. I look forward to hearing your training on Friday, and we will schedule something with you in the future. Okay, I think now we move to item number 2, and I think we should start with, does anyone have any disclosures?
Use the exact quote, I would like to make a disclosure regarding potential conflict of interest.
Thank you. I'm going to go through the same questions again, and we'll try and do this to the letter. So I think in this case, it's completely reasonable that we should review this and go through this again, especially since I hear there's more information available. And that was the first time I know that in particular had a disclosure count. So prior to comment, deliberation, public hearing, decision, any matter, we have a member who's disclosed potential interest. We have civil questions to ask here, so I will start those, and you could answer these for me, please, Karen. Can you provide a detailed description of the interest?
I am a leaseholder at the Girdwood Airport, and I own a hangar that sits on the land that I lease, which means I have a state lease with the DOT leasing department and pay property taxes over the lease.
Thank you. Is the interest financial or personal? I think you said financial.
I just Googled a financial interest means I either are receiving money in some form of economic gain or have a reasonable expectation that I will receive money or economic gain in the future. So by this criteria, it is not a financial interest. The example I just pulled said it could include salary or compensation, rent or lease payments, but I wouldn't be paid, ownership shares or equity, but I have that. Increases in property value tied to a decision, this is unaffected, contract awards. So I guess it's not a financial interest by this definition.
Yeah, I think if you look at code, it says financial interest, the receipt or expectation of the receipt of a pecuniary benefit. So I agree with you. It would not be financial. I think it falls under personal because of the contractual relationship, but again,
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, where was that in here? I didn't actually.
That's in the code.
I know, but in this paper you pointed to.
Sorry, it's actually on the second page. It's the conflicts of interest section of AMC.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Section B.
Section.
Section B of 115.060, section B, private interest. So yeah, I agree. Private interest. Who holds the interest?
I do.
Thank you. When did the interest arrive? Thank you. How does the matter coming before the body impact the interest, including whether the interest is a substantial part of the matter under
Sorry,
consideration?
you're not speaking. You're
Certainly, I will speak more slowly. Next question. How does the matter coming before the body impact the interest, including whether the interest is a substantial part of the matter under consideration, whether the impact of the interest directly varies with the outcome of the official action, and whether the impact of the interest is immediate or conjectural and dependent on factors beyond the official action.
So is the interest substantial part of the matter under consideration? No. Does the impact on the interest vary directly with the outcome of the official action? No. Is the impact on the interest immediate or conjectural and dependent on factors beyond the official action? It's conjectural because the impact, we have no idea how. I think that's what that means. It's definitely not immediate.
I mean, I would interpret that differently and say you don't have an interest that's immediate or conjectural or dependent.
We'll go to any further questions after this. Sorry, so you're saying it's conjectural?
I'm saying it's.
No, does the impact on the interest is immediate or conjectural? No, and dependent on factors beyond the official action.
The way I read this is it immediate or conjectural and dependent on factors beyond the official action? So the way I'm reading this is this something which is immediate and directly relates to what we're talking about? Or is it conjectural based on other things that may happen subsequent to this decision and factors beyond this decision?
Conjectural impact refers to an impact on that is speculative, uncertain, or dependent on future events that may or may not happen, rather than direct, immediately, or clearly foreseeable. So I would say it's conjectural.
Right,
because it's speculative, the impact is speculative, uncertain. Yeah.
And then the final question is, now you've disclosed those details, do you believe that your interest prevents you from placing your personal interest or private interest, prevents you from placing the public interest in the official action above your private interest?
No.
Thank you. And again, there's a comment here that the disclosing the belief that they should or shouldn't be excused is a factor the body should consider, but is not determinative. Okay. There's now an opportunity to, if any other members of the board to ask follow-up questions or any additional questions on this of Kelly. Thank you.
That's good.
So the length of the lease that you have with DOT, does it renew every year or is it a long-standing month? So how long does it go for?
50 years.
Okay. And my other question is, in terms of conjectural, I'm having trouble imagining, this was one of the times when I was like, wait, you're saying what? So if I may ask, I'm trying to imagine how your vote on parcel H could possibly affect your lease with DOT. Like I'm going through, I'm a fiction writer, I love possibility, but I'm just coming really short on possibility. Do you, when you sit and think about it, do you see any way in which DOT, your lease with DOT would be affected by your vote on parcel H? No. Okay, thank you.
Question for Kelly. Prior to this lease, did you have other arrangements at the airport?
A long time ago. I rented briefly a hangar.
Thank you. Oh, one other question.
Oh, sure.
You can ask them.
How long have you been using the Girdwood Airport?
I got my pilot's license in 2013.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. I don't have as prepared of a question. It might be very similar to Jennifer's, but do you feel like any way you would vote on this letter would impact you down the line by whoever is DOT of Girdwood?
Thank you. I have a similar question as well. Is there anything in your lease related to the lease and the use of the airport, which is sort of discretionary on the part of the leasing office, or is everything very clearly procedural?
Very clearly. I mean,
Okay.
the airport itself is public, so there's no, and then our lease is very clearly laid out. The only thing that can cancel our lease is failure to pay. And I actually just went through it. So it can only be canceled on failure to pay.
Okay, thank you. Is there more questions?
Yes, sorry, one other question. Did I just hear you say our lease? So do I understand that this is not your personal lease with DOT, but a group of you that has a lease?
Yeah, I am part of a 13 hangar complex. And so we as a collective have an LLC called AQY. And the lease is actually between, so it's not actually even between me and the DOT. It is between AQY LLC and the DOT. That's actually a really good point. It's not even between me personally and the DOT. I'm one of 13 who makes up a membership of an LLC that has a lease with the state of Alaska, DOT leasing.
I'll follow up on the same thing. Are you an officer of the organization?
I am, I'm the
Okay,
secretary.
right. So there is more. Okay, thank you.
I'm the secretary.
I would-
By vote, I have no more vote than.
But being an officer means you have some kind of legal responsibility of the entity. So I will rule, especially given the extra information, the 50 years is the one that to me makes, and the lack of any discretion on the part of the airport leasing office. So to me, I do not think this rises to a significant conflict of interest. I still stand with my previous comment, but I think it was somewhat close. But I think with this additional information, particularly the length of lease, does not rise to a significant conflict of interest or a substantial. Anyone can appeal this. Second. Seeing any appeals? Right, now, that was kind of our very slow, deliberate test, I guess, of the process. And we did it, we got it right. We'll do it quicker, hopefully, in other cases. Okay.
Sorry, one.
Yeah, sure.
I really do think for me, the substantial thing is the financial interest. Really, this definition is helpful because I was not aware of that.
Right.
The answer. So I actually misstated it in the first determination. But by the definition here, I do not have a financial interest. So
Yeah.
anyways, I just want to say that was, I'm glad that we had this in front of ourselves. And, can refer to it because that's a really key piece of it. Because that was the basis upon which you made your ruling, was that the financial interest was $400, but it's actually not. It's definitely.
Thank you for reading that earlier. And I didn't want to appeal just for fun.
I think,
See what would happen.
in particular for financial interest, it has to be a payment to,
Exactly.
for financial. Personal is much more.
Right.
I
Okay,
didn't get
right.
that, until, so thank you for putting this out, Margaret, because it's very helpful to know.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're on item 2. All of us can talk to it and vote, participate. We have an A and a B here. I'm going to perhaps suggest that we do B first. I think that's the letter that we had. So yesterday, nobody objects. Can we do part B first? We we intended yesterday our meeting to just formally approve the version of that which was in our packet, and we forgot to do so before we adjourned. So if somebody would like to make a motion that we approve the letter as expressed in yesterday's, I think today's packet.
I'll second.
Okay, first, second, any discussion? Kelly?
I just have a question, and I don't know that it really truly impacts the letter, but in yesterday's meeting, sometimes when I hear myself say things out loud, I'm like, good point. So. I mean,
Me too, that happens all the time.
no, I was thinking about it later. And the thing is like, so much of the discussion was around the airport has to follow their plan, la, 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 la. And they did. They said no to the lease when somebody applied for it. And then they got called to court and court said, no, you have to lease this. So it's not like the DOT, we can appeal to DOT to like follow their own rules or la, 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 la. Like, so at some point, or at what point have we actually gone to the ruling to understand what the court said and upon what basis they said that the DOT was compelled to lease this? Because the courts compelled the DOT to lease parcel H. It was only after the courts compelled the DOT to lease that it went to literally the highest bidder who happened to be Aaron Brill. And so for me, that's a central issue. And like, because really it's not just municipality can overrule DOT. So I just wonder if we actually, I haven't, but has anybody actually understood the basis of that legal action and how binding it is and who said it and what, you know what I mean? Because like, that's kind of the central issue from my reflection after the conversation.
I've read it and definitely don't fully understand it. I'm not a lawyer, but I've read it. And the decision wasn't to overrule. The decision was to refer it back to the commissioner to redo the decision, or in fact, to go back to through the process and to re-investigate it, given the fact that some facts have been established by the strict law judge. So the commissioner could still have rejected it, and they chose not to. They chose to issue it. So the final decision is a decision of the commissioner.
Okay.
And that's my understanding of where we are now. Somebody else may have a better understanding, or we may have to pay a lawyer to get the correct interpretation, but that's my understanding of what the administrative law judge said. It was referred back to DOT leasing office.
And well,
Yeah.
I'd just add to that, I mean, I would agree. And also I've talked a lot with the neighborhood, the representatives, petitioners who have poured through this numerous times. And it boiled down to the judge saying that DOT had made two decisions at the same time, that they had determined that the parcel was undevelopable and therefore were refusing the lease, when in fact it was clear that they had actually done the work to prove that the parcel was not developable. Now, there's some feeling that there, as Mike said, that there was some room for that to be challenged, but that's not what the commissioner chose to do. But the other thing I'd want to point out, I think that that question might be particularly relevant for our DOT, our letter to DOT, but our letter to the city has different considerations. And so they are very different letters. I was almost going to do the same thing and then realized in talking to the community that they're very different. So yes, but I appreciate the question, because it's easy to view this maybe reactively, but I do want to give DOT some credit at least for trying to fight this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this topic?
Thank you to everyone who worked on it and discussing it and with the neighbors. And I look forward to the passage of this and the sending of it.
Okay. I will actually ask for roll call on it. Sorry.
Actually, I just want to, DOT told us, and again, I haven't followed up on this, that the lease has not been awarded. When they were here, they said that the lease has not been awarded. They said that Brill was the winner, but they made the distinction that we were in this grace period where it hasn't been awarded. So I don't know if we want to say the lease was awarded last month. I don't know. Kylie,
We got an update today from Camilla. She just sent an email during this meeting, and the lease has been awarded. Permits for building have not been issued. The survey conducted were part of a requirement for the lease to be approved. So they did a survey. Required soil samples collected. Leasee has applied for a permit to cut trees and place a Connex box. Aviation leasing is not required and will not inform the community or the city at all when permits are granted and construction is beginning. That's from Camilla.
okay,
And,
cool.
and it's that last point that's problematic, because that's where there's a difference of opinion between the municipality and the state DOT. The municipality believes the land use code does apply, and therefore they will need a land use permit before doing certain actions on the ground. So that's really the focus of this letter. I personally don't think we need to change the letter any further. I think it stands as it is, at least the information we had as of yesterday.
Can I just add one
Yeah.
thing? I'm realizing I'm not confident about the words last month.
Oh, right, okay. So I consider.
Just take out, thank you for pointing that out,
Yeah.
because I'm not positive about that.
Okay, perhaps we can.
Strike last month,
Strike last month.
Scrivener's error.
Scrivener's error, yes.
taking us weeks, so that's fair too.
Okay, so is that Margaret? On the second page, line 4 in the middle, it says the lease was awarded last month. We just want to strike out last month. So the lease was awarded the new lessee. On that basis, can we have a roll call vote just to approve this letter finally?
Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard,
Yes.
Kelly Okamek,
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan,
Yes. Mike
Edgerton.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Sorry, there's so much process around this. Sorry, Deborah?
Hi, so I just joined in and I appreciate that what I just heard, that so everyone signed off on the letter and it's going out today or tomorrow first thing. Yes? And
Today.
that's the letter that goes to the mayor's office, correct?
Yeah, it's the municipal manager. Yes, and the mayor.
Okay, so I just wanted to also say that and maybe this is moot point now because you just did that, which I think is great. I received a letter on April 22nd from the Brian Anderson Commissioner, and it was a generic letter, dear Girdwood residents, but I know I got it because I had written him personally. And it does say specifically in there, excuse me one second while I'm reading this. The third paragraph, why a lease has now been awarded for parcel H following this process. No construction or operational activity may begin until the lease submits and DOT and PF approves a detailed building permit application. And it goes on. Have you, Board of Supervisors, received this letter or seen it?
I've seen a copy of it, Deborah, this is Jennifer.
I think the staff would have received it if we did.
We forwarded it on. I think it's the same one that we forwarded.
Yeah. So yes, Deborah.
Okay, so I guess my point is just that, yeah, there's a little discrepancy. I think that, Camilla had told me a week or so ago that, the language is different between the DOT, that like awarding a lease or executing it are two different things, which is another, unfortunate confusion. And I don't know what that means, but at the same time, it is just concerning to hear that, well, first of all, when they went and staked out the land, the leasee, and then also now going out and doing more inspections on there and so forth. So I get, just in summary, my point is that yes, this is it needs to go out now. And this letter, and so does the other one that was discussed yesterday. And then I really was impressed with the DOT person there. I mean, not the DOT, but the municipality person there. And for several reasons, but that then also she said, well, I need to investigate this and ask DOT some questions. So Jennifer, I really appreciate you going really forward on this and advocating for us, and all the board supervisors, but especially Jennifer, really taking a special interest in, of course, our representatives that met with us, which I know you've heard of. So I don't want to be redundant. I just really wanted to point that out, that it's while I think there's things that are progressively, somewhat positive, it's just this timing is, I'm not trying to be dramatic about it, yet it's critical that these letters get out. It's disappointing that this letter right here had to take another week. So I guess that's really just my point. So thank you for signing it today and getting it out.
Thank you. Sometimes process gets in the way, but if we don't follow process, you can create much longer delays.
If I may,
Please, yeah.
I just wanted to state that there's been a lot of work by Mike too. There's actually been this. I was reflecting that this is a situation where there's been a lot of movement under the duck. So yes, for a lot of us, there's been a lot of paddling under the water on this one. Okay.
Unfortunately, the duck is no longer on the stream.
That's right, the duck went west.
Okay, thank you. So part B is finished, part A. So yesterday we discussed a second letter directly to DOT. There was a draft, which is, I think, two versions of the draft are in front of us. There's one in the packet. There's a slightly later draft as a separate piece of paper with highlighting on it. Since then, we've discovered additional information. I'm going to hand it over to you to make a suggestion for how we proceed.
For starters, I would like to make a motion for the sake of discussion that we adopt the highlighted version to work with and to edit.
Second for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then,
motions in front of us.
okay. And then, as was mentioned, we got an email right before the start of this that changes a couple aspects of it. And I have one sentence suggestion and one word strike. So at the start of the second paragraph, the recently approved lease proposal, I think we can strike the word proposal and the whole sentence still works. So that's the easy one, assuming that my second is okay with that. And then the other, the additional amendment I would make, or sorry, what's the best way to do that? That's almost clerical, isn't it?
Let's do, yeah.
Let's just say that one's clerical. Okay.
Second.
Now that we know that a lease has been, I don't know whether the word is executed, a lease has happened. Let's do that. And then the sentence that I think might need revising is the one that starts nevertheless. And I think we can simplify that down to simply the development seems to be moving forward rapidly. And we can say, even though no building permits are in place.
So just for process, I'll second the first comment, and I can't even see which one it was, Jennifer. Take out.
So the sentence that starts, nevertheless, the new leasee has already conducted a land survey.
No, I know.
Oh,
The
sorry.
first one you said.
First one was striking out proposal. I think we decided that was there.
Right, that's, I was just gonna chime in and say yes, and then keep going.
Okay,
So
okay.
the nevertheless, you want to make it tighter without,
So the new information that we got makes it clear that there were reasons behind the land survey and the boundary and all of this. And so I think we want to put the emphasis of this sentence on the fact that no building permits are in place. So I think we can simplify this entire sentence by saying the development seems to be moving forward rapidly, even though no building permits are in place.
understood, and
Would you agree, Mike?
Yeah, that's.
that is helpful information prior to this discussion. So I agree with your revision.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the amendment, the amended language? I'd like to point out, I think that's nicely crafted because it doesn't, we're not, we haven't obviously got separate confirmation of everything Camilla said. I'm sure everything is correct, but it just protects us from going too far into the details and potentially getting a detail wrong. So that's nicely phrased. Okay.
Can I make?
Yeah, I've got a question on, I'm going to ask Deborah first, if you've got any comment on is this on the amendment or the letter itself, Deborah?
Just, thank you, Mike, the letter itself.
Yeah, can you hold on? Sorry, Deborah, can you hold on to the amendment first then, please? Just a minute.
I think you guys,
Amendment or the letter?
what's that?
Is this on the amended language or the letter?
Yeah, it's on the amended language, the yellow.
Right, that's on the letter then.
Okay.
So.
Is there any way I could, excuse me, is there any way I could see the letter itself? It's like only halfway shown on the screen.
That is the whole letter.
That's the whole letter.
The whole letter.
Sorry,
Well, what
it's
happened to-
3 paragraphs.
It ends
This
with
is
highlights.
It's the one to the state.
This is the one to the state, which is shorter.
It's different than the
Okay.
muni letter.
Okay,
Because I wasn't going to explain if I may, sorry, Chair.
Yes.
I was not going to explain parcel H to the DOT. And actually, just so you know, Deborah, I worked with a draft from Camilla for this one.
Yep. Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for unanimous consent for the amendment. Not seeing any disagreement. Okay, so we have the amended letter in front of us. Now, Deborah, let's go back to you. Do you have any comments on the letter as a whole?
I think I'm good with this one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, board, we should.
Hopefully it goes out soon.
I have a question for Kyle, and it might make me propose an amendment, but I wonder if we should put something at the end that says, would not impact public health, safety, or welfare of the immediately adjacent residences, and this is where my question comes for you. Should we mention something like, or cause detrimental environmental damage, including streams and water management? You brought up the culvert on Lake Tahoe, I think it is, and I wonder, and then in the meeting where Megan and Camilla were both here, anyways, through some of the conversations, the comment was made that due to environmental reasons, this isn't a buildable parcel, and I don't have any personal understanding of it, but there's been enough that has been brought up around water management, stream interruption, I wonder if it should be called out here, and so I would look to you because you know the culvert issue.
Yeah, I would say,
From other.
I'd say that driveway is definitely an issue. I also say the other side where the active air pad is going to be has active erosion right there right now. And that's been an issue. We've been talking with DOT for a long time, and they've said that they're not going to do anything about it. And now they're proposing to clear cut that area, put a pad there. And so it's gonna be less permeable and water's gonna be going towards those erosion areas. So I, this does play a very good function in the sense of being permeable and then increasing traffic across those culverts. I used to live in that house right there, and I knew all about those culverts. And snow removal was a huge issue. Like I'd be out there like chasing down the snow guy. Don't push it in here because it's going to plug and it's going to flood around us. And so there's quite a bit of improvements there. And I did receive an email from Mark with DOT, and I sent him my concerns about what's going on in that location. But I do think that is a good point.
So.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, please. Finish off your point.
Oh, I was just gonna propose that we added language as perhaps a second bullet point to articulate a request that they provide environmental assessments which determine this parcel is suitable for building and won't have adverse effects on water handling or the adjacent neighborhood or something like that.
Let's put in that, come back in case you come up with some specific language.
Thank you. And another question for Kyle. Is there gas lines running through there also where that erosion is taking place?
Right where that development is.
So I would suggest that we also add critical community infrastructure. If we're going to put some sort of edit on there.
And I like the language of like, show us how you've already determined this won't be a problem. And so I think there's something about strengthened language of, the community has concerns about the impacts of gas lines, erosion, water handling, and the impact on local culverts. Please demonstrate your assessment to validate. We need the right words, but I would like to put
Downstream.
Downstream
water assessment.
Yeah, I would suggest language that puts the onus on them to demonstrate how they've already established that this isn't an issue. Because from my perspective, that is the central issue, is like the question of actual developability and the impact on the community infrastructure. And that will happen, if we have to do another culvert replacement or now we're actually taking on impacts at a community level, which that is where, we get into a really interesting jurisdiction debate. And so somehow I think that needs to be reflected here. Maybe you have language.
I do.
Great.
You have language?
I have something for you.
I had something. Oh,
Input.
Well, adjacent residences or impact on environmental condition. That's just a
Okay, all right. I almost wonder, should we just take a couple minutes and just?
I have a question.
Yeah, actually, yes.
We could just
Yeah,
take a.
please.
I wanted to ask Jennifer, since you're creating language, this might make it more lengthy, but we have maybe now 5 sub bullet points that would follow. Would not impact the, and then list public health,
Right, yeah.
safety, welfare, immediately adjacent residences, and then use the phrases ecosystem, environment, anadromous stream, and permeability and critical infrastructure, because then we're asking something specific for them to come back to, instead of saying show, also demonstrate how the development will not impact said things, or just list them as a long sentence. But
Can we, I think what I'm going to suggest then is let's take like 5 minutes. Can we just take a 5-minute recess just to
Yes,
clear up language here?
Mhm.
I'll let
Yes.
you two draft this.
who's the two?
If you and,
Yes, okay.
Brianna as members of the body. I do that. So we're going to take 5 minutes until 3:55 just to come up with language so we don't have to revisit this again at future meetings.
Yeah.
can I add a comment about the language, please?
Well, if you can actually, you're not a member of the body, so you can join in.
Can I just make one comment about their? Yeah.
Let's finish all comments so I can get to put you guys in recess. If we have any more
So
comments.
I've suggested recess. Could someone just move that we recess for 5 minutes?
Okay, we're not recessing.
Oh, yes, I will move that we recess. For
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, any dissent? No, we're now in recess.
Oh.
Nice to have a time.
Possible to get this language on the screen.
I don't know.
Only if Kyle puts.
Should I type it?
Yeah. It would be possible that it's really clear. Or maybe an image.
I could type it if Margaret or Kyle.
It's just the.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get this in Word version real quick.
Okay. No, I could probably. The keyboard, I'm much faster.
Just passed you a copy of it. Screen, is that correct?
Oh, yeah, I would wish that on anybody who's trying to read that.
Do you want to help?
Yes,
Actually type it.
yeah, I can type it. Want me to type it?
Yeah, you could take this keyboard and I'll get you set up with a Word version here for that.
So we're back in session. So I know this is taking a few extra minutes, but the intent here is to be really clear.
Actually,
So everyone on the body knows exactly what we're approving, and we can
probably not.
move forward and make our decision.
Here's a
Because of the essence.
heading. There's a keyboard. Add in. Okay. I'll give you. What that.
The final version is picked up. I see, Deborah, you have a question or a comment? Would you like to make that now, or does that depend on if it depends on the language we're amending?
Thank you.
Wait.
Mike, no, it does go into the language right now, although I haven't seen the change that you came back with. But so thanks for taking my call because I wanted to get this in before you guys went and did this. Rerouted some things. So Kelly, thank you so much for pointing out that like super important factor, wetlands and environmental. And Kyle, thank you for sending that letter as a like you said, a previous homeowner there, and yet you don't live here anymore. So that gets to my point of Brian making a comment about the gas line in there, that the question about it and being answered is that I would so sorry that it took me that way to come to this, but my suggestion would be, and the last sentence in that bullet, and the welfare of the immediate adjacent residents, that actually takes that out, the adjacent residents, and puts in the welfare of Girdwood residents, Girdwood Valley, the entire Girdwood community. I mean, Brian, you just like really nailed it on the gas line situation there. And I think that when I wrote to the commissioner, I actually never put where I live. And I just gave him my PO box number, and I came out with very specific opposition points of why I was against parcel H. So I hope I'm making myself clear that I really, really find that this is extremely important to put in, that this is not just a neighborhood issue. It will affect the entire valley. And I can go on. We know what the reasons are: air pollution, noise pollution, traffic increase, and so on and so forth. So thank you. I hope that somehow gets in there and actually takes out the adjacent neighbors, residents. And that's obvious. And the adjacent neighbors, including myself, we've all written. Well, I don't know, maybe leave that in there. But again, I think I like to see Girdwood as a whole, somehow putting it in there.
Dad,
Yes.
now that I read it on the screen, Jennifer, and everyone, if we say, because we say that, demonstrate that. So after studies, which demonstrate that,
Okay, sure.
right before demonstrate.
Yep.
Or just take out that development to word work.
Demonstrate.
Yeah, which demonstrate.
Are we happy? And we,
The spelling of hanger.
I don't know where, hangers, yes, yes.
Hangover.
Yeah, clothes hangers, they're great.
That's fun.
Spell check doesn't always.
And then just for the sake of absolute accuracy, we had one other, this is clerical, but we had some issues with how I did the parcel business. So we can have a generic parcel here, and then we need
Top sentence in the second paragraph or
and parcel H here.
parcel H.
Yes, what's your other clerical one?
This is very clerical, but you might want to, I don't think helicopters are considered aircraft. I think they're considered rotorcraft. Again, that's the most clerical of clericals. But you might want to put rotorcraft.
To be consistent with our previous.
Right, and I got corrected on that before because of, I don't know, I guess it was concerns that if we got rid of helicopters here and something else came in or
I would
what.
just put rotorcraft / aircraft. Just, I don't, again, or nothing. I don't think it matters. If they can't figure out what we mean, then I'm
Yeah,
not that impressed, but.
okay. Got extra space and everything. All right, so that, now we have it all on the screen, right? I'm just gonna clean up
There's
one
probably
little
two
thing.
spaces.
Okay, all right, anyway, okay.
Okay, so what we have on the screen is effectively a vetted, multiply amended, updated letter. Are there any comments from the board? Letter.
This resents my previous, because aircraft means any contrivance invented, used, or designated to navigate or fly in the air. So
Okay.
you chose the correct term, my friend.
That'd be a helicopter.
Okay,
I guess my comment would just be to, with the theme of clarity, clarify who's being sent this and then whose names
Thank you.
on the bottom
next question.
voting if we're doing a roll call vote.
I think it would be reasonable to copy the municipal manager on this letter.
Okay.
And probably I would suggest our
Reps.
senator and reps,
Jen,
So that's-
Diesel and Kai.
Diesel and Holland. Other suggestions on the two? And then from our municipal one was signed by both co-chairs and land use. Do the same, or we could have this narrow. Should we do the same?
I think that would be
Or
consistent.
So-
Usually it's just to be consistent, whoever,
Okay,
if it's dated today, whoever's co-chairs at the beginning of this meeting. And then land use at the beginning of this meeting.
right.
Jennifer.
Okay. Kelly,
I propose on the last bullet, well, the second to last bullet now, that would be strike the word any. So just say provide reports, guidelines, or other studies which demonstrate, because we want to
Yes.
say, clearly you would have done studies to determine that this is okay. And so any implies that that could be option.
I'll second that.
It'll be more.
Little edit.
Right here.
Oh,
next
provide reports, the third bullet.
third bullet point, second word, delete.
So just delete the word and
Second.
after provide.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. Any more comments from the board? Deborah, you have your hand up? Do you have your
Yeah.
comment?
I do, thank you. So did that, what I just had made a comment about, did that not have any validity?
Yeah,
I don't, I mean, is that because you took in like, you left an adjacent neighborhood, and then you put in the valley ecosystem and the critical public infrastructure?
I'm
I mean-
comfortable myself that we have covered the essence of your point, that it affects the whole valley. There is a technical reason why public health, safety and welfare of the neighborhood is relevant, because that phrase is a magic phrase when it comes to land use. So I'm comfortable that I think we've gathered the essence of your point, that it affects the whole community. I'd like to move on.
Can I make a comment, Deborah? I think it's smart, and it is, like Mike said, using the verbiage, public health, safety, and welfare of residents. And property is statements that are made in our area, in our land use plan. So it's smart to kind of directly quote it. And it's completely relevant that the residents' safety is very much of issue because when things fail, right, people's lives are at risk. So I think it actually makes it more broad, making sure that we're completely calling out the people and then also infrastructure. So I think we should keep it.
Agree with you, Kelly, and I do think that we should keep it. I just would like to see an addition in there. And again, I don't want it to be too wordy, and I don't want to belate this point. I just feel that there is a lot of traffic that comes, foot traffic with animals that come through our neighborhood and walk that airport, whether to do a loop or whatever, they're there. And so it is a safety issue for the entire community that uses this space. It's not just me walking out the door and, literally my backyard, I'm walking that. People, I know on the board, people come down and use that. And throughout the community, that people that live pretty far away come here to use this and walk this area. So again, I like that point, leaving it in there. I just would like to see just a little addition and the entire Girdwood community.
Thank you, Deborah. Again, I think we've covered it. I think it's clear from the amount of time we're spending on this that we're treating it as a priority. I would recommend, I don't know if anyone wants to actually move it for a vote, or if there's no further comment from the board, I think we should move to a vote. Do it as a roll call. Do you have a comment, Jennifer?
Well, I just want to throw out to the board. I know we've edited this ad nauseum, but if it would make that clarification to simply take out of the adjacent neighborhood, if we just say impact public health, safety and welfare. Okay. All right. I understand now. I do understand. Okay. Yes, I will make the motion that we pass as is.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll,
Second.
as this stands, we're now voting. Can we do it this roll call, please?
Yes. Brian Burnett,
Yes.
Brianna Sullivan,
Yes.
Kelly Ocknick,
Yes.
Jennifer Wingard,
Yes.
Mike Edgington.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
As long as you take out the extraneous bullet.
Yeah, that's gonna go. That's bugging me too. It's like an Easter egg sitting over.
Yellow. The changes that you made before as well that are in the other two paragraphs. So there is some more work to be done, and I will send that out for signature first thing in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
The other one is up for signature with you right now.
Yep, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's items 1, 2, A and B all complete. Last item, UBS structure 2023. So this is a point that's actually in the end of our
It's back in the packet.
at the very end of our packet. I thought we were at the end of our packet. Yeah, last page of the packet.
Sorry.
So we have a current rules and procedures. We have a process for doing this. We can do areas of responsibility first and move on to the chairs, or we can do chairs first and move on to the areas of responsibility. Let's start off with roles. I think that's how we listed it in the agenda. So each of the 5 individual members oversees an area of responsibility. Previously, we've set this up as is it housing economic development is 1, land use is the second, another one. Trying to remember exactly how we roads and fire, roads and police.
Roads and safety.
Roads, utilities.
Safety, right, got it. And then recreation cemetery. So they're the 5 roles. The process we followed in the processes in our code is based on seniority, which I don't think means who's the oldest, does it? It means who feels the oldest has been on the body longest. So that's the process we will follow. Okay, I'm the oldest. I've been here longest. I'd like to continue with housing economic development. We have. I think we're just right at the tipping point of getting a lot done this year. And I've established, hopefully, a reasonable working relationship with the people in the administration to move things forward. I will continue that role. Is a process question?
Yes,
Yep.
it is a process question. So I did not
Yep.
interrupt, but it is a.
No, please ask a question.
And it has nothing to do with what was just said. It's about this selection of areas of responsibility. I remember it being that we did kind of assign, start according to seniority, but it's a confusing language. I just like to put out because it said it will be chosen or assigned at the same time. I thought we had more of a discussion about it. I don't remember us just picking our roles, but am I remembering that incorrectly? I thought
I think
we had.
I think what we can say is, what we can do is go through the process and say what we're interested in.
Okay.
So let's do it that way. We're not
Okay.
necessarily finalizing it. So I think Brianna second.
Oh, I was just putting my hand up to say that maybe assigned meant if you were assuming someone's role because they moved or left the body, and then you kind of stand in that seat temporarily until shuffle again, because we've done that before in my short time. I would just add for my role right now as fire department that I am interested in still maintaining that role. And if anyone else is interested in that role, that's fine with me, but I'm learning more and more and happy to serve in that role.
Okay. And can you clarify again that that's just fire department?
Correct. The areas of responsibility.
Thank you. Jennifer.
I am interested in land use. Somebody else wants it, I'm open to that too.
Okay, Brian.
I really appreciated, since I've been seated on this board, being able to continue being a trail geek, and would appreciate being able to continue in that, and hopefully, since I am the oldest on this board, getting some, seeing if there's anything for me to do with the cemetery.
Very dark.
So technically, your role is Parks and Rec as well as trails.
Yeah, exactly. So Parks and Rec and cemetery. Yeah, so.
Kevin?
Well, conveniently, I'd like to stay as public safety, so
Okay, public safety and roads.
I think I'm really just kidding.
Okay.
But I mean, whatever, we got a thing down. It works.
It works. So any further discussion on this?
Do we need a motion that everyone maintains their seat for the next year? I can move that.
Yeah.
I think Margaret needs.
Do that, yeah.
I move that all board members maintain their wished seats as their areas of responsibility for the next calendar year.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? We'll do this by assent. Any disagreement? Not seeing any. Okay. Aside. I'll go on to chair and co-chair, or co-chairs, sorry. It would be either chair or vice chair or co-chairs. Let's start with that discussion. Does anyone have, for the many years now we've used co-chairs, is everyone comfortable with that decision? Or should we just assume that, or should we make an active decision to go with co-chairs?
I think we should continue co-chairs.
Okay, so in that case, would anyone like to nominate themselves or somebody else to be co-chair for the following year?
I'd like to nominate Brian.
Okay. Assuming you accept.
Yes, do I get to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. Or we can just open, well, let's open nominations.
Yeah, let's open
go through the
nominations.
process. You can say no if you don't want to do it. And then at the end of it, we can have a discussion. Kelly?
Jen.
Okay,
I nominate Mike.
okay. And,
And I nominate Brianna.
right. Okay, so we have 4 nominations. I'm assuming everyone's, so we should have checked each time. I'm assuming everyone is happy to be nominated. So let's go into discussion. We obviously need to select 2 out of 4.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunities of co-chair. And I like to think of these as potentially seniority type of positions to be considered. I think that seniority plays a role in having the perspectives for co-chair duties.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to share that I value all four of your participation and your opinions and your time on GBOS. And I think that any of you, based on seniority or not, would be great co-chairs and are good to work with. And speak for GBOS. You've all spoken for GBOS in public settings, and I think it's really good. And anyone on GBOS helps the co-chairs, so it's a good working system, and we can make it work as board because we're all part of the body. And thank you for the nomination. I've been honored to serve as co-chair for a couple of years now, and if it's the will of the body that I continue that, I'm happy to, and keep working for our community.
Okay. Kelly,
I just have a follow-up question. How many consecutive years have you been co-chair?
2 for sure.
Okay. And how many consecutive years have you been co-chair?
I think it's been 2 or 1. I can't remember. I know I wasn't chair for a year when you were chair.
I think it's just been one.
1 year. Yeah.
And then prior to that, it's
2 years. Check. Okay. Any other comments? I'd like to say something. Yeah, I agree with Brianna. I think we've got a really strong group of supervisors. And while I don't agree with everything everyone says, including myself, I don't agree with everything I always say. Because more information comes to light. I discover that you don't have the full picture. And we've definitely had some contention. I think if we handle that well, and I think we have today, and I think dealing with the issue we had last week, I think that was handled well today. I think we have the strength as 5 adults. I'm grown up, some more grown up than others, some older than others. I think as a group we can do really well, and I think I think pretty much any 2 of the 4 will continue the strength of GBOS. Having said that, I think I definitely will be voting for myself, and I think there is some value in continuity as well, although there's also value in new blood. So I think how we will do this is just from the practical point of view is what we've done before is effectively we'll go through and everyone will have 2 votes and select 2 people. We'll count them up. If there are any ties, if there are 2 clear people, the most number of votes still co-chairs. If not, then we'll deal with any ties amongst those first 2.
Sorry, I probably should have raised my hand earlier. I would like to just address, we did get some feedback from within the community. I've gotten some feedback on off the record as well, kind of about making sure we don't have overly dominant voices, and also making sure we have a diversity of viewpoints within the co-chair. I think that's the strength of the co-chair system. And so I would respectfully disagree with this kind of idea that kind of whoever has the most years wins. And just say that I really appreciate the reason I nominated Brian. You don't have the most years, but I also recognize the incredible amount of work you did before you were on the board, and certainly your long years with land use, among other things. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about it.
Thank you. Any further comments?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Let's move to a vote. So just to clarify voting process, if you basically go through roll call, each of us will give 2 names out of those 4. Margaret will add them up and give a total number of votes for each person. And then we will see where it goes from there. I suspect we won't have 2 clear people who are suspect we'll have a second round of voting, but then address any ties. Margaret, go.
Kelly Okonek.
Right, and Jen.
Jennifer,
Brian and Jen.
I'm sorry, Brian. I was like, who's not a co-chair? Go ahead, Brian.
Mike and Jen.
Brianna Sullivan,
Mike and Jen.
Mike,
Mike. And can I split my vote? I say Brian.
so we have Jennifer with 4 and Brian and Mike tied at 3.
So I'd say Jen wins 1 seat.
Yep.
And then we have, and then the next vote would be between, for the second co-chair between
Brian and Mike.
Brian and Mike. So again, if we go through a roll call.
Just have to get organized.
Yep.
Second.
Very technical work here. Right, Kelly,
Brian.
Jennifer, Brian,
Mike.
Brianna,
Mike.
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 So that's 3-2. So we have Jennifer and Mike.
Excellent, thank you. Have a deep bench. A deep bench.
We do have a deep bench.
We do have a deep bench. This is cool. If I may speak.
Yeah, please.
I really appreciate everybody on this board, and I'm glad to be associated with everybody here. And I appreciate so much of Mike's participation in the meetings that we have. And Jen, I really appreciate what you're doing on land use and with this board also. And I like having a little bit of divergence in the chair position here. And I think that we all accept the advice that comes from the community and the advice that comes from this council as all constructive and all good. So.
I'd like to say a huge thank you to Brianna for all the work you've done in the last couple of years. It's been great to see. It really has made so much difference. Especially that I think so many meetings have gone extremely well. I think you have the right touch. So thank you very much. Yeah, I think we are kind of unique. GBOS is the only kind of, community level body in the municipality that's actually elected as opposed to appointed or self-appointed. So we are unique and we're in a position that, is potential strength. I think there's a number of things that could happen in the next year or two, which will make it a stronger and better place within the municipality. So I'm looking forward to everyone helping on that. And I'm looking forward to working with you.
Before you adjourn.
Oh,
Yeah.
One thing I suggest is that a letter is going to the municipality. I would make sure that maybe one of the chairs does a follow-up phone call to the municipal manager directly.
Okay.
And just state the urgency of the things that we learned today about the moving forward. And if they can engage with the state sooner than later, that would be
Okay, I will take that on. Thank you. Yeah, we should, I think technically we have public comment. I'll just say public comment, there any public comment?
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
all right.
I do want to say one thing. I think it's great to finally see fruition on something that's been brought by a community member to the board. However, I can't even hide my disappointment in the fact that I've requested a letter to HLB to write a site-specific land use plan to prevent literally environmental disasters in this community. And here I am. It's been over a year now, I believe. Still don't have one. Still got nothing from the board, other than you guys got to meet in a meeting with them that I don't believe I was able to attend. It's frustrating. I'm happy for
their little neighborhood. However, I'm incredibly disappointed about where's the support for Old Girdwood. I would like to see a letter written. I think the community, I have here, this is 85 signatures from local residents who vote in this community. We've asked for a compliancy review to the mayor. You want to know what she told me? She's kicking back saying, well, what have you actually requested of HLB? HLB has told them that they've delivered every deliverable that I've asked. They've never even responded to a letter. And I can't get this board to write a letter on behalf of our community. I would like to see you guys write that letter. HLB has never completed a site-specific land use study in this valley that has ever identified the community of Old Girdwood or identified Crow Creek and the downstream impacts from their lack of identifying navigable waters in this valley. It's going to be us that pays for this. Like the letter written. The mayor truly believes that I've never asked this. She's asking for documentation. The only reason that's happening is because my voice has not been heard at this board. I would like to see it put back on the agenda. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I'll now call for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Have to.